and thanks for joining us once again on the Business and Opportunity Podcast live here on the African Diaspora channel in collaboration with Cross River Broadcasting Corporation, CRBC. Now, the beautiful thing about Cross River State is that it has so many potentials. But the big question is, how is the state leveraging with a public-private partnership to make sure that the economy of the state thrives better? Now, joining me to unpack all of this is the Senior Special Advisor to the Governor of Cross River State and Director General, Bureau of Public-Private Partnership, Cross River State, Dr. Francis Ntamu. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Now, when I heard that Dr. Francis Ntamu was going to be our guest on the show and that he is the DG Bureau of Public-Private Partnership, one of the things that hits me was that, I'm going to see, a cute gentleman dressed up in nice pair of suits, like a business, person that he is. And true to type, here you are looking very dashing.
Thank you for the compliment.
How are you doing today, though?
Well, I'm great.
Oh, fantastic.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the best place for us to start this conversation is for you to unpack the mandate of the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership. What is the mandate of this commission? What do you do?
Thank you. Simply put, our mandate draws from the Cross River State Public-Private Partnership Law of 2010.
Okay.
And what that simply implies is that the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership, serving as the Secretariat of the State Public-Private Partnership Council, catalyzes marriages between the public sector and the private sector in the delivery of critical infrastructure and services. So what that means is that the PPP Council, which is the highest policy organ of public-private partnership transactions, headed by his chairman, the Deputy Governor of Cross River State, and membered by critical agencies of government, Attorney General's Office, Finance, and a host of others, has a mandate of liaising with relevant agencies in ensuring that the operating environment is fit, is appropriate for, the marriage I talked about. So our mandate is to ensure that from root to branch, we have an environment that inspires confidence, that inspires transparency from start to end, as may relate to project, public-private partnership project origination, portfolio management to the last mile. And so in doing so, for instance, we have a long list of pipeline projects, including projects on the portfolio management. And what it means is that investors at risk, private sector investors, can now have a skin in the game by going through having the experience as lettered in the state PPP law. Right.
Okay. So now I also know that that the state has adopted the 2026 Cross River State Business Enabling Reform Action Plan. So maybe you just let us know what this action plan is. And I hear that there are about 6 categories, key areas. So you let us also into these 6 key areas and how it's unfolding in the state as we speak.
Yeah, I think the key point to keep in mind is we have the Presidential Ease of Doing Business Council, PEBEC, and what that prescribes for all subnationals in Nigeria is to have, after all, the sovereignty is an aggregate of subnationals. So all 36 states and Abuja adds up to the sovereignty of Nigeria. And so the focus of the administration, the renewed hope agenda, is to have the private sector as a critical wing for growth and development. And in doing so, you must have an environment, a business operating environment that is clement, that is friendly, that is transparent from a governance side. So if you ask me to define the 6 areas, everything around the ease of doing business in Nigeria and within the subnational Cross River State in one capsule is the entrenchment of good governance in our operations. And good governance touches on transparency, on disclosure, on readiness of implementing agencies. So what it means is that you have a time frame within which your turnaround time should be. So you don't imagine, for instance, that you put a letter across to the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership and then you wait on ending for a response.
Okay.
You don't imagine that you go to the State Investment Promotion Bureau and then you struggle with access to land. And so you have implementing organs like the one-stop investment shop. And what that suggests is that you walk into the Investment Promotion Bureau with your suitcase and just right there, you are able to have receive attention from Ministry of Lands, Surveyor General's Office, Attorney General's Office, BPP Office, and the likes. So, so in one capsule.
Now, do we have that kind of policy, or do we have that kind of platform here in Cross River State?
Oh yes, you do have.
Okay.
Yes. So it saves you the trouble of having to walk through the mile, walk from BPP to investment promotion,
to Attorney
or
General.
to the Attorney General's Office for agreement, to Ministry of Lands for land, Surveyor General for the land survey bit and all that. So that's what it is meant to do. It's meant to take the pain off the investor. It's meant to ensure that you have full disclosure and transparency. And that has been the main challenge of driving investment, particularly in the global south. In the global south, I refer to, emerging markets.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So another thing that I heard you talk about is that, there's some sort of transparency as part of what, the BPP does to enable transparency to investors. But before we get to talk about that, I think I would like to ask, is the BPP in Cross River State part of the one-stop shop that you had just mentioned that, an investor can just go to and get all the information that he needs or she needs, in the same place?
Yes, absolutely. So what the BPP does is that it midwives, PPP operations from origination all the way to the last mile. The last mile being the investor's participation, including post, contract management issues.
Okay.
So what it means is that I'll give you an example of, for instance, the Calabar International Market Project, which you have. Is one of our projects.
Okay.
Now, what happens is that the investor, responds to an expression of interest, extensive expression of interest for participation in an opportunity.
Okay.
And once that happens, the BPP through the one-stop shop, engages the Ministry of Land, engages the Surveyor General's Office, and the PPP Council is membered, like I highlighted earlier, by the Attorney General of the State, Commissioner for Finance, and a host of other agencies, relevant agencies.
Okay.
So within that instance, you are able to swing around, gain momentum around the relevant interventions that an investor might take a look at. And so talking about, for instance, disclosure, you're very clear that in, attracting participation by the private party, you are able to have solicited projects using open tendering projects process, advertise. So our first prize, our preference oftentimes is to go for open tenders, open bids, which means that the aspiration of the Cross River State government, as approved by His Excellency the Governor, is signed off and advertised on national dailies, international medium. So we often adopt international competitive bidding, which will mean you are able to request for participation on 2 national newspapers, the local newspaper, for instance, the Chronicle, the State Tenders Journal, and a host of others.
Okay, fantastic.
So
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Is that you addressing the issue of transparency that you talked about in terms of business?
Oh, yes, that's it. Because the transparency comes from the process cycle of our interventions. So everything you do from root to branch must signpost transparency in a manner that, like this SDGs will say, in a manner that no one is left behind. You are able to create an open platform for, investors at risk to have a skin in the game. And one way of doing that is that you are able to let out this information, because information is power, like they say. So in the capital market, you begin to have information taking a full premium on investment, insider information, for instance. So what we do is to take away this instance of insider information and let it out there to the investing public. So oftentimes we invite investors of interest to take a look at the dailies, for instance, the State Chronicle, and of course national newspapers, where oftentimes all the advertisements are made for expression of interest.
Okay, so you said something about the Calabar Market Project as part of the projects you're handling from the BPP, but it takes me to my next question now. What key PPP projects, are currently on the way in Cross River State, and what's their expected impact on the state's economy? Because I think that's very important. At the end of the day, it is the economy of the state that we are all trying to boost. So, what key projects are you doing, and what impact is it going to have on the economy of Cross River State?
Yes, I think it's to begin by saluting the institutional framework in the state that gives vibe or rise to some of the momentum we're gaining in that space. The Calabar International Market Project is one of such signature interventions of the administration. And what that means is that you have a greenfield market, a regional market with outreaches, outlets for countries on the Gulf of Guinea to participate. And
fantastic.
And this program is within the initiative pack of the administration of His Excellency, the Governor. And what the process flow is that once you have such projects approved by the administration, it's communicated to the State PPP Council. And like I've highlighted, the PPP Council is membered by key entities in government, the organized private sector representation of the organized civil society organizations, and professional groups, and a host of others. And what they do is a filtering process to take in a look at compliance to what we've talked about, disclosure, compliance to the readiness of the bidding entity, compliance to ensuring that readiness dovetails into the capacity to fund achieving financial and commercial closure within a set time frame. And so I'll get to the controls if time permits.
Definitely.
Some of the filtering controls that the administration has in place to ensure that you're able to distinguish between credible investors and those who are just walking through the park. So coming back to your question, if you look at the Calabar Market Project, what it means is that the state is deepening its social infrastructure within its vision of, the demographic shift, demographic changes. So you notice within the central area of Calabar municipality that the impact of shifting population has impacted on what? The market. Our demography and co has impacted on the market and has stretched the existing facility. And so the bold step of the administration is to ensuring that beyond, what we have within the existing market infrastructure, we're able to have something, a facility that accommodates the new thinking of government. The new thinking of government is Calabar as a premium destination for investment, premium destination for tourism, premium destination for livelihood. And what it means is that government takes a look at the design and is able to approve what its aspirations are. And so here we are with the Calabar International Market, a regional project that sits just on the coastline of down the road here. And the private party is able to make submission and to say, express an interest. It was advertised by the BPP. And then we received expression of interest for a couple of potential partners.
So let me cut you in now, because any lay person, listening to us now, you say the Calabar project, market projects, right?
International market
projects. So the first thing that will come across or cut into the minds of people is, what are we selling?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think you should talk about this along those lines. What is it that the state is selling to the international market, or what is it that we are buying from the international market? So let's look at it from that angle.
It's a people project. It's not directly an enterprise between the government and the participants, as the case may be. What the role of government is to provide the enabler for livelihood. So the Calabar International Project is an enabler for livelihood, wherein you have a location designated with appropriate infrastructure and, if you like, ease of operations, convenience, safety, and all that that is required. And here, the expectation is for investors, players, even as you see in the existing market, to have a skin in the game, to have shops that they are outlets that they are able to sell their wares, their commodities, as the case may be, and also to have a window for our brothers and sisters on the Gulf of Guinea, because we're right in between this. So the likes of Cameroon, the Cameroon Republic, and others to participate in this market with ease, with minimal encumbrance. And so you have some of the components of this project. So, for instance, a jetty that can enable boats to sail in and back. You have appropriate security presence. You have healthcare clinics. You have accommodation at the parking lots, sanitation arrangement as the case may be, tolling arrangement as the case may be, order in simple sense. What the state is pitching in this case is orderliness, our signature, which is cleanliness as the case may be. So hospitality as the case may be. And I think
security as well.
Yeah, of course. That's why I talked about the security presence. So you have a police presence, for instance. You have shops. You have convenience, as the case may be. You have communications decks, so that you could walk in and you are able to get direction on where you're headed.
Okay, so is the Calabar market project just about the only projects that the PPP or the BPP is involved in, or there are other projects that you like us to know?
Oh yeah, I like your emphasis on the BPP. Yeah. What that means is Bureau of Public-Private Partnership. Being the Secretariat of the State PPP Council.
Exactly.
Now there's a long list of projects. I just mentioned in passing the market project, which is one. There's another project we've heard about, the Deep Sea Port, which is almost ready with having secured the Federal Executive Council approval.
Exactly.
Now, you have others. For instance, the terminal project, which we call the interchange project. What that means is that the satellite interchange project right there as you approach Odupani into Calabar is also one of the pipeline projects, wherein we have an experienced partner. We've signed off the deal already, the contract in that regard, where the issues of financial and commercial close not an issue. Land is being made available for them to, set up the infrastructure. So the key thing BPP is what we're selling, what government is doing through the PPP shop is to provide catalysts for development. In this regard, infrastructure. And infrastructure, whether hard or soft. You just talked about security, sanitation. These are soft infrastructures. But the bricks, the cement, the gravels, and the chippings, those are physical infrastructure. So what the state does is to create an amalgam, a handshake between these offerings in a way that we are able to have the ease of operation. So if we talk about the Calabar, the Greater Calabar Satellite City project, in what comes to mind is the interchange. The satellite, if you like, toll management system, where articulated vehicles, can park and create sanity for the inner city. Now, if you go through some districts in Calabar metropolis, you will find trucks parked all over the place, and you struggle through the highway in between trucks carrying, for instance, cement or premier products, liquid products, as the case may be. But the thinking going forward within the people first agenda of the administration is to create sanity and take off these high vehicles off the road. What that means is that rather than drive, you only find a truck driving into mainland Calabar metropolis when they are required to do so. For instance, has that
been implemented?
So the project is ongoing. So on completion, that's what you're going to find going forward. You're going to find going forward an arrangement that allows only vehicles, high occupancy vehicles or trucks, as the case may be,
heavy duty
vehicles, driving into Calabar only when they are required to lift products. So you're going to have a technology-driven system that permits those trucks, if you like, heavy-duty trucks, as the case may be, to drive in only when they are signaled and approved to do so.
Okay.
Otherwise, they stay at the satellite city within the premise of the toll management program.
Okay.
So that's one of those projects. And you could take a look at that if you're familiar with Apapa or should the access. The same experience is going on there. So if you don't do that, what you end up with is if you like, chaos, a chaotic traffic arrangement that would defeat the whole essence of our existence as a green city, as a city that is known for order. So that's what that project seeks to do. And that's one of the pipeline projects we have. Now, there's a wide spectrum of projects. If you look at Shongai Farms in Itigidi in the agri space, is also one of the projects that we've signed off on.
Obviously, in the agricultural sector.
In the agricultural space. And what that signpost is the readiness, willingness, and ability of the administration to hold on to continuity and not just dropping what the previous administrations did. So we got approval to bring value, to attract value, private sector capital, new infrastructure, including competencies to the Shongai Farms in Itigidi. And so with a new partner on board, which is already on ground, what you will find is that we're able to optimize capacity to the desired level, the founder's dream, what was envisaged in the project model when it was envisaged. So that's exactly some of the initiatives we have. On the healthcare space, we have the health insurance scheme we've signed up already with a credible partner who is able, most of them products out of Johns Hopkins University. And what they're doing is to, support the Cross River State Health Insurance Agency in ensuring that no one is left behind in the business of universal healthcare. The Cross River State is a signatory to that, and that's why you have the Cross River State Health Insurance Scheme and agency law. And what that insists on is to ensure that both the formal and non-formal sector are attracted into the dragnet, into this whole idea of universal healthcare, and that no one is exactly, whether you're a civil servant or you are in the informal sector, you can get the benefit of healthcare at whatever level you are of your existence. So that's one of the projects we have. And fantastic. I can continue to give you a highlight of some of the things we have.
Okay, so I think you've touched on agri, you've touched on the healthcare sector. I don't know if you've touched on the infrastructure sector, but you've also touched on, of course, security as part of what the PPP covers, But again, I think that I would like to ask what the process for private sector companies is to partner with the state government. Is there a process, and what does the process look like?
Well, yeah, thank you. There's a process. Again, that takes us to the institutional arrangement and the governance arrangements surrounding our operations. And if you permit me, I could quickly highlight what I've said earlier.
Please go ahead.
Thank you, please. Which is that you have the state law, and Cross River is strong in that respect relative to its peers. That way back in 2010, you are able to have a law that permits the operations of PPPs. Where there's no law, then you can't imagine to do that. Exactly. So what that does is that the law defines the boundaries, what needs to happen within that space. One, the law demands that there must be an inaugurated PPP council, which is the first time that is happening under this administration. So we have a robust PPP council that signs off on every intervention of the council, of the bureau, because the bureau is just a secretariat. The chairman I've just mentioned is His Excellency, the Deputy Governor, Commissioner for Finance, Attorney General, their members, private sector representation, and civil society, professional groups, and a long list of others. So the process, so I would not undermine the integrity of your question, is to quickly highlight that the process first, you have two categories of participation. One is solicited, which means that those projects that are in the approved project master plan. So the approved project pipeline of the state government, i.e., I just talked about the market project. It's a solicited project because the government is within the vision of the government. The governor approved, the administration approved it. It's in the state PPP master plan. So when you're dealing with a solicited project, such as the market project or the health insurance project, which we talked about, or the Shongai farms, which we also talked about, and a long list of others, the energy project, the solar farm project across the state, or the Bakassi deep sea port. These are solicited projects because they are envisioned in the state PPP master plan as pipeline projects. So what we do with pipeline projects, simply put, is to advertise them, talking about the process. First, secure the approval of the state PPP council, notwithstanding the fact that they are captured in the master plan. Okay. Secure the no objection of the PPP council for advertisement to be made on relevant outreaches. Dailies, So the outreaches will, like I've talked about, 2 national newspapers, and of course the Tenders Journal, the state newspapers. Okay. Once that advertisement is made, it will demand for one, an expression of interest. So by the way, what we're advertising is a request for expression of interest. And what the expectation, the outcome from that exercise is an expression of interest from interested private sector entities. On receipt of their expression of interest, a committee takes a look, committee drawn from relevant agencies. For instance, if we are reviewing a power project, a solar farm project, for instance, and we have that as a pipeline, what happens is that you get representation from agencies of interest, State Electrification Agency, Ministry of Energy, Power and Renewable Energy, and a host of others. So they take a look at the submissions in line with established criteria. And once the review is done, we come up with an output. The output from the review of the expression of interest received is simply called what? Shortlisted entities. So we make a short list of the long list. So you end up having, in some cases, 60, 40, 30 interest. So that team does the review upon the clearance of the state PPP council. Okay. So once the review is done, you end up with a short list of expression of interest. And then you issue a document called the project request for proposal.
Before we look at what you're just talking about now, let's take it back a bit to the reviews. What are the criteria that are used to get to the short list?
Perfect. You're speaking as an insider. So the first thing you want to see is everything starts from governance. You can't be talking to the state government through the PPP shop when you are not a fit and proper legal entity, corporate entity. What we're simply saying here is that your entity must be recognized as a legal person. It must be incorporated with the Corporate Affairs Commission. So you can't just have Francis Limited. So the first thing we want to cross-check is Francis Limited, if you do a search on that, is it illegal? Is it incorporated by the Corporate Affairs Commission? Is it recognized? And if it's not a local company, because you can always talk about or it's equivalent in other jurisdictions, because sometimes you have interest from non-Nigerian entities. Okay. So you can insist that those companies must be incorporated or registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission, the CAC as we call it. Okay. So that's the first thing you want to look at. The second thing you want to look at is you sometimes want to take a look at their audited accounts to see if what they say connects, if some of the proposals you're receiving connects with their numbers. You also want to take a look at their corporate profile, with specific regards to what have they done? What similar projects have they done elsewhere?
And have achieved.
What track record do they have? And that's where you have the issues now. So sometimes you get there and you find that there's a huge disconnect between what they are pitching for and what they are really known for. Okay. So this has some of the things. And even when you conduct the search, there's a proviso where the nature of business of an incorporated entity is. So you can have an entity incorporated for training business. Okay. And here is the company pitching for construction business. And so you begin to, so such disconnects are things you want to pay attention to. Okay. So you want to take a look at their corporate profile, and that will signpost the track record of such entities. So beyond that, you want to also take a look at their manpower resource. Okay. So if at that entry level, you're looking at construction business, and within your team profile, nothing connects with civil engineering or mechanical, as the case may be. That could be a flag that we'll pay attention to. So in simple sense, at the entry level, what you're bothered about is assessing the readiness of that entity.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's continue with what, the question we were looking at. What, the processes for private sector, to be able to do what now, to be able to, partner with the state.
Oh, yes. So where we left it earlier was that you've made submissions.
Exactly.
An advert was placed on the media and the entity responded.
Exactly.
And then a shortlist was conducted.
Yes.
And then when the shortlist was conducted, you end up with shortlisted entities or pre-qualified entities, whether it's a construction or service business. And then the next step there is the procuring entity, in this case, the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership, working with the relevant ministry, department, and agency. I'll give you a common example. If we're looking at, for instance, the Cross River State Health Insurance Scheme, so the relevant agency here will be the Cross River State Ministry of Health and the Cross River State Health Insurance Agency. And the loose term for such relevant agencies is contracting authority. So what the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership will simply do is to attract from the relevant agencies or from the contracting authorities representations, sector owners who are adept with policy issues, adept with the operational implementation issues of the business. And then a review is done. And then, of course, once the review is done, and like I told you, we got to the preferred and shortlisted or pre-qualified entities. Then a document will be developed by the contracting authority and the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership. That document is commonly referred to as the project request for proposal. Don't forget, keep in mind, earlier we spoke about the expression of interest.
Exactly.
Now you've graduated to the second layer in a two-phase procurement process. You now have the request for proposal stage, otherwise referred to as the proposal phase. At the proposal phase, you issue a document as the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership. You issue a document, a tick document to the shortlisted entities. And what you're simply saying is, thank you for scaling through the initial hurdle. And here you are at the second phase of the process. You are now invited to submit proposals. And these proposals will are usually in two formats. The first format is the technical proposal, which defines the technical aspects, specifications of the transaction of interest. It talks about your manpower, your implementation plan, how long, for instance, if given a chance, will you deliver on that opportunity? What are the key milestones we should keep in mind? Then you move further into other specifics. You regard to ESGs, and by ESG, we're looking at environment, social, and governance. Okay,
so would you say that all of these processes are too stringent for a prospective, investor? Or they are just normal, processes and procedures that every business person should, have in mind?
Our estimation is that at the quality, the level of the expectation of the state government, for instance, you're coming in to build a toll road. We have an interest on a toll road already. I didn't mention that earlier because we have a long list. There's a toll road, the 30-kilometer toll road upcoming as one of the pipelines, all the way off Uyanga, Uwet Okrikan Highway. What the 30-kilometer road seeks to do is that you have a greenfield, and then you have a private partner putting forward a plan, a design plan, and getting all the approvals, and ensuring that in doing that road, you comply with low carbon practices. And that is evidenced by a study called the Environmental and Social Impact Assessment Report. So you don't start, putting a road without focus or regard to the environment, the ecosystem. So in all of that, in all we've said here, you're looking at a multi-billion naira project. And it's not a project, a transaction for just any new joiner. Okay. So we'll imagine that you've done similar projects elsewhere. So you clearly understand what it means to put together a technical proposal. Mm-hmm. You clearly understand what the technical competence, the manpower requirement for such deliverables. Mm-hmm. You clearly understand the quality of equipment that needs to be deployed to the project. You clearly understand design issues. So you're simply connecting with the ordinary, with the norm. You're not introducing
so all of the
new
processes is just to bring quality to the table.
Yes, the focus is quality at entry and quality at exit.
Okay.
Otherwise, you'll be undermining the integrity of your role as a PPP player.
Okay, fantastic. I know that, the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership is more like a clearinghouse, for businesses, for public and private businesses in the state. So we'll be looking in-depthly into some of the businesses, some of the, investors or investments, that have been cleared in Cross River State. But again, I would like to ask, the government of the day has a vision. Okay, I know that there's a popular mantra of people first, but it has a vision, and I'll be asking you what that vision is in terms of improving ease of doing business in the state. What's the vision of the government in terms of ease of doing business in Cross River State? What's that vision? Well,
the vision of the administration, as clearly articulated in the document you highlighted earlier on, is to deliver a state, to have a state a leading state in Nigeria, that is a frontier state that is the reference point for transparency and ease of doing business.
Okay.
Because His Excellency the Governor is always particular on integrity.
Exactly.
Each time he talks to everybody within the fold, he reminds of the all-important shift of all-important representation of Cross River as a destination for transparency. And so the overarching objective of the entire vision and the overarching focus of the ease of doing business focus is to have Cross River as a reference point, as a flagship state for ease of doing business. Exactly. And what that means is that it becomes a common point for people to say, this is where you need to go, and it gets done without undue encumbrances, without rent-seeking attitudes and all that.
So would we say that we have, that objective have been fulfilled? We are playing to that objective of His Excellency in Cross River State as we speak.
Yeah, we're playing to, I agree, because another word side to it is that it's a work in progress.
Okay.
And so far, so good. If my assessment is correct, I think we're ahead of the curve.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Now, let's look at the bureaucratic bottlenecks and regulatory issues affecting businesses in Cross River State. How is the administration addressing it?
On the regulatory side?
Yes. Regulatory and bureaucratic bottlenecks.
Yes, I think it's still within the ambit of the ease of doing business. One way the state government is addressing issues of bureaucracy or red tapeism, as the case may be, is to ensuring that you inject flexibility into the operations without contravening the process. We'll give a common example, and that's what full disclosure does. If you are able to have, for instance, clear disclosure on your operations, when you issue the project RFP, for instance, which RFP being the acronym for request for proposal.
Okay.
If you are able to clarify in good time, the key expectations from the private party, without shifting the post in the middle of the game. That way, you'll have achieved significant mileage in addressing red tapeism. So what they need to know, for instance, you just ask what and what is expected. And we must be clear enough from the very blast of the whistle that these are the requirements for participation. You must release, for instance, the project RFP in good time, and there must be a minimum period, the set minimum period within which technical and financial proposals should be turned in by the bidders. So if, for instance, you don't put the requirement for tax clearance on the table, and then you cover 60% of your mileage, then midway you are able to say, okay, no, we need the company income tax clearance as requirement, which is a necessary requirement.
Exactly.
At least the tax clearance certificate for the last 3 financial years, previous financial years. And then you are able to place your company income tax clearance certificate for the last 3 years. And then somebody comes up and says, no. Beyond that, what we need is the tax clearance certificate of at least 2 of your company directors. Keeping in mind that your company directors vary from the company income tax clearance. Then you are already in the midst of inconsistency.
Exactly.
So one of the things the administration is doing is to say, put all this on the table. PPP Council, take a look at the RFP and clear it. Ensure you're not asking for the abnormal, for what is not really required, but overboard, clarify in good time. So that's just a practical example of how the state is swinging around issues of administrative bottlenecks, which again draws from full disclosure and from regulations, as the case may be. If we don't have regulations, for instance, in the PPP fold, beyond the law, we have a PPP master plan, and that's not what you find everywhere. The PPP master plan speaks to the day-to-day operations of the bureau in line with the project procurement administration process.
Okay, because I was going to ask a question. If you want to put side by side BPP with other states, how far or how well would you say that we have gotten to as compared to other states?
The first question, if you permit me, will be to cross-check if how many states in Nigeria have Bureau for Public-Private Partnership.
Okay, not all have.
That may be the beginning point.
Okay.
The Bureau for Public Agency for PPP Implementation is not an all-comers game because the quality of resource you need and skills you need to deploy to the agency is something you need to pay attention to.
Okay.
So in terms of, if I understand your question to be the readiness index, if we index the readiness of cross-river BPP alongside
other states,
then you can be imagining states like Lagos, maybe as its pair.
Okay.
Because you want to take a journey back to say, okay, way back in 2010, how many states have a law on PPP in the first place? How many states in Nigeria have a PPP council? I just highlighted that this is the first time within this administration of His Excellency the Governor that we have an inaugurated PPP council. It was there on the papers.
Exactly.
It was there as
not
a requirement of the law.
But working as well.
Yeah, so inaugurated and functional.
Yeah.
So functional is that is resourced. They meet. You have PPP council resolutions, and then you have PPP implementing agency, a PPP office agency, as the name may be. So and that is also resourced, and then a PPP master plan on ground. So that's the question. So if you ask in terms of where does Cross River State Bureau of Public-Private Partnership
stand right now,
then it is
as compared to other states like Lagos.
It's ahead of its pace. It's something you can fact check. I mean, how many states have a PPP master plan, a functional PPP agency, a PPP law? Then that's what I mean. It's ahead of its pace.
Okay, let's look at local communities now, because all of what we're doing should trickle down to, our local communities. How would you say that the state government is ensuring that PPPs projects benefit local communities and create jobs for the teeming population?
Thank you. And it's always interesting to find that you connect with the aspirations of leading practices in PPPs. One way it does that is the emphasis of the administration on local content.
Okay.
So when we issue the project request for proposal, we insist on local content. You must demonstrate your appetite as a private player, potential private partner, appetite for local content, for local capacity development. If you look at another emphasis is on ensuring that the ecosystem is not undermined, that you are able to have environmental risk issues and safeguards in place.
Okay.
So the intention of PPPs at all levels is not to undermine stakeholders' benefits or integrity, as the case may be. So, but the first thing you want to imagine is that, do we have young people, if you're doing a road project, that can be part of that experience? And we have partners who are able to convince council to say, yes, this is what we intend to do. Even with the people, through sensitization, through participation, direct participation in the business and all that. We have a cocoa coffee value chain development PPP project, which is ongoing at the moment. We are at the advanced procurement stage. And what the partners are telling us is completely no, zero tolerance for to child labor. That's one thing, one big area. So the administration came up with a agro-commodity traceability policy, which means that if you're found culpable in areas of child labor or in areas of non-acceptable agro practices, then you are completely out of the way. Because
so when we are going to child labor, what happens to the population that's, has the manpower? Let me put it that way. What's happening? Because initially when you started, you said if you're doing a road project, for example, do you have young people? I'm not talking about children now, underaged. Do you have eligible young people that are, in the know of how to construct road? So that was what we were talking about. You mentioned that before we even started talking about the cocoa value chain, and then you talked about underage children being a no-no for that, involvement. So what my question now is, so don't we have a crop of young people that can do these jobs in Cross River State? Do we have like a debt of young people?
So you have
in terms of the workforce?
No, you have an avalanche of able-bodied people. But the general rule, anywhere where you have leading best practice, which the state signs off to, is to ensure that there is compliance when it comes to this, if you like, bad practice of child labor. And it's a common experience across the global south. Of course, here speaking about developing markets, Latin America, Africa, with due respect, Asia, some parts of Asia, with due respect, you have this craziness of child labor. Why? Because it's an exploitation
venture,
pathway, for instance. We've seen sometimes as a window for cheap labor, as a window for exploitation. Of course, they won't imagine to have labor unions or negotiate properly or work extended hours or not ask for safety protection, protective wears, as the case may be. And so within agro practices, particularly across everything within the portfolio of PPP operations, but I just gave you an example of the cocoa coffee value chain PPP project, which is hot on the plate. It's an ongoing procurement process with local and cross-border interest already in the room. And of course, in the coming days, we'll be coming out clearly with the potential bidders. But what it means, the point I was highlighting is that within the experience of connecting with the local communities, there's a window for our grower scheme. There's a window for capacity transfer through training and retraining. There's a window for relevant exposures, including community support programs, healthcare, schools, as the case may be. So those are the touch points that in crafting the project request for proposal, you are able to see the end from the beginning in terms of dovetailing into areas of benefit for the people, protection, livelihood support, as the case may be. So that's what it is.
So there is, I'm going to use your word now, an avalanche of opportunities for young people in these communities in terms of benefits now.
Perfect. That's where we are. In the next coming years, without sounding prophetic, we're going to end up having, supply of jobs outstripping demand.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's what you can take home, because what it matters to us is that the more PPP opportunities we are able to create, and again, talking about sustainable opportunities, PPP projects.
Okay.
And if you allow me to put a knife between the sustainable PPP experience and the otherwise, the flip side, what you'll find is in the past, we have a litany of PPP contract agreements or MOUs that were signed, and they were not, if you like, functional.
Or implemented.
No, not exactly, because of course you only they only get implemented when they are functional. Okay. So if you have a bad hire, I mean, the outcome is obvious. You hire Google in, Google out. What do they say? So you hire bad product, you end up with the outputs of monkeys, like they say. So you want good output, you hire good manpower, not necessarily cheap labor. Okay. So you sign a bad contract with a poorly hired PPP partner, you end up with bad outcomes. Okay. So you're going to stay there for too long in the agreement stage. You've signed up the agreement, but they are unable to achieve financial close. So what the administration did, and this is proprietary to the administration, is to say, look, you said you are investing, take for instance, $35 million US on, say, a waste management a project. We have a waste management project as well. In the coming days, you're going to find that what you have on Lemna will now be a power generation source. Okay. So the waste and the stench and everything is going to be recycled into manure for agriculture as well as power, as the case may be.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, we're already at the advanced stage of that procurement discussion.
So I think that's part of the conversation will be kept for towards the end. So you get to let us know as Cross Riverians. Do not forget that this is a policy and business opportunity podcast. So we have lots of investors watching and listening to us that may want to, in the upcoming days or years, invest in Cross River State. So you're going to highlight some of those projects, that have it's on the table and is working, and like you said, sustainable, because sustainability is key. Sustainable means that we are also going to have it even after to outlive us into the next administration, even though I know that continuity seems to always be a problem for us, when we talk about politics from one administration to the other. But it's good that all of these things that the government of the day is doing are sustainable, which means that it will definitely outlive us. So you're definitely going to reel out some of the investors and the investments that have been cleared. We know that, okay, this is ongoing right now in Cross River State. Oh, yeah. And obviously opportunities, windows that other investors can actually come in, to invest in. And I think I'm going to be talking from the investor's point of view now. The gains for the investors. Yeah, definitely. So let's look at all of that.
Yeah, I think to start from the rear, if you permit me, is that Cross River has no issue with continuity. Okay. Because it's predictable to a significant extent that as long as you are able to come to the table clean and transparent, as the case may be, with all the required readiness, it's a fit and proper place to partner. Okay. Because the law permits us to have up to 25 years concession period. So for some of the transactions we talked about, you will notice that they signed off 25 years, and there's a proviso in the law that permits us to do even more than 25 years, subject to the clearance of the State Executive Council. Okay. Right. So that said, there are other aspects. So you talked about sustainable and the non-sustainable project. And prior to the current administration, we had experiences that undesirable experience when it comes to PPP concession agreement signing. One, because from an institutional readiness point, we didn't have a PPP council in place. Today, as the Director General of the State PPP Council, I'm accountable to the State PPP Council.
Okay.
I take all PPP projects, procurement processes for clearance, presentation, like you're defending a thesis to the state PPP Council. Though sometimes the flip side with that is that it takes some time, okay, to figure out through the due diligence process if you're talking to the right guy for partnership. It's like marriage, like I said. So you don't want to have a bad marriage. So the first thing you want to do is to be sure that you're talking to the right, proper, and fit partner who has the track record, who has all it takes to engage, partner with the state through the long haul. So in the past, we had some experiences of potential partners coming in, seeking to partner with the state, signing agreements, and post-agreement signing, you don't see them again. The next thing you hear is the partner is somewhere in Abu Dhabi or in Hong Kong and in Taiwan, talking to people for partnership or something, and that's fair enough. But the snag will always be when you start getting calls from these jurisdictions asking you if you know this guy. You say, yes, you signed the contract with him. Oh, he's asking us to partner with this amount of money.
Oh, wow.
And that's fair enough because, of course, he needs to get partners. But the question is, when he gets such money, you don't see him.
Okay.
He's gone with the wind. And so, and that it ends there, dead on arrival. So what the administration brought to the table is to put some control, a leash on that. And what it means is that you're saying you invest in $35 million, for instance, in a waste management, a waste recycling project, waste collection, transportation, disposal, landfill, engineered landfill, and recycling of the waste. And maybe the portfolio size of that project is $35 million. Just a hypothetical example.
Okay.
So the administration is saying the new PPP of Cross River, the PPP Council approved that, okay, we hear you. You have $35 million in your proposal. All we need you to do is to commit to a project mobilization guarantee.
Okay.
Which is simply put, just 2% of $35 million. So you're not giving it's not an expense. You're just escrowing the amount. Escrow means you setting aside the money for a defined period, and it's still your money. You assess the money.
Okay.
So one of the things we struggle, that's the sanity we've been able to bring in there. And what it means is that you now end up with people who are able to escrow the 2%, and then as they get to the project site, they commence work as set out in the project Gantt chart, in the project plan. And the team comes back. It's okay, please, I need my 2% back. And you get back your money. So what I've just said in simple terms has been able to sanitize some of those experiences of people coming in, signing, and the next moment they are nowhere to be found.
They're gone. Okay.
I thought it's important to drop that as some of the control mechanisms that have been deployed and that have sanitized the process.
Okay.
So the 2% mobilization guarantee is not an expense. It's not payment to Cross River. You're just demonstrating that I'm willing and able to move to a site to get the job done. So it's part of the process because sometimes we have 3-4 interests on a waste management project, all going through, scaling through the hurdle.
Okay, so now let's quickly, I hear that we are supposed to wrap up. Let's quickly look at what are the investments that have been cleared that you would tell us that these ones are sustainable as we speak in Cross River State. What are those investments?
Yeah, there are a couple of them.
And then I think it just dawned on me now. We've not talked about, the Tinapa Business Leisure Resorts. So is that also part of what government is doing? I remember that, government has taken over the control of that place. So what is it that we are doing towards that angle? Okay,
thank you. I think the first thing, if I'll not be fair to our audience if we don't talk about the Bakassi Deep report.
Exactly, you touched on it.
Yeah, so I don't know the extent to which I want to go because we might sit here all day long. But one of the biggest PPP wins of cross-river state government happened in this administration.
Exactly.
So for people who wonder about, how do we start a project? How are you sure after 8 years after the administration, it will go with the wind? I got beaten in another state and I don't want to get here and get into trouble. These are layers of fear. The Bakassi Deep Sea Port was originated in Cross River during the last administration.
Exactly. And
here we are in this administration, fast-tracking the process, the project. So the project, as at the close of the last administration, had just the entry-level outline business case. But on the emergence of this administration, within less than 3 years down of the administration, it was able to fast-track, secure the full business case approval for the deep sea port. So what it means is that, as it stands, the Bakassi Deep Sea Port is no longer a pipeline. It's a project signed off by the federal government of Nigeria through the Federal Executive Council and its relevant agencies, the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, the Nigerian Ports Authority, and the Federal Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. So the point we are highlighting is that you can't set up a port as a state government like we know. It's in the exclusive list. So you need the partnership with the federal government and evidenced by the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Commission's certificate of compliance for the full business case, as well as the approval of the Federal Executive Council. So this administration will speak within, a period of less than 3 years, secured this all-important milestone. And it's not an all-comers experience. Okay. So you can do a head count across the country. You have a long list of pipeline PPP projects from Bayelsa to Delta to Edo, Gelegele Port, all the way. And in these ports, you can count with your last finger. You can barely count with your last fingers how many have a full Federal Executive Council approval or even an approved full business case. Okay. So that's, to me, is important to highlight because it signposts the readiness, the clear demonstration of Cross River State government, particularly the administration, on continuity, on its commitment to delivery of credible PPP transactions. Okay. I'll give you another example. If we look at the market project, Calabar International Market Project. Okay, so
I wouldn't want us to go back there because we have, dealt with that extensively. I think one of the things that I would like us to look at is, like I said earlier, what's happening with the TNAPA. Is government not doing anything about that in terms of PPPs? And in terms of, for us to wrap up this conversation now, the last administration, there was just too many failed PPP projects. So what is the guarantee that this particular administration is not going to be giving us that anymore?
Thank you. Even if you permit me to reverse to where we left it with regards to the governance measures adopted by the state government. Okay. The law was passed in 2010 and there was no functional including inaugurated PPP council. Exactly. And I imagine that answers your questions. Okay. Because what the administration is placing on the table and we placed on the table, and I imagine succeeding administration will sustain, is to pay attention to governance. Okay. Because if you don't have a PPP council, then a lot could go wrong. So the clearinghouse for PPPs at that level is the PPP Council. So
we didn't have that in the previous administration?
We didn't have that in the previous administration, okay, even though it's envisaged in the law, was foreseen in the law. Okay.
But it wasn't functional?
No, there was none. It wasn't functional, that's the word. Because one, you didn't have an inaugurated PPP Council. You didn't have organized private sector representation in the PPP Council. Now you have one. You didn't have a professional group's representation in the PPP Council. Now you have Elder Gershon Davis. You didn't have representation from the civil society in the PPP Council. Now you have Barrister James Ibo.
So with the constituted PPP Council now,
Yes.
it means that in this particular administration will not be seeing failed projects.
Yeah, because you've dealt with that. You're bringing perspectives to the project review. So what it means is that the review process comes in with the lenses of the civil society, private sector, professional groups, and then government. So it's not just, so it's a clear semblance of public and private marriages. I think you like that.
I like that, yes.
So that's the safeguard you have. And I think that's the big safeguard. And then with this PPP Council in place, now the benefits are unimaginable. You begin to get all kinds of leverages, leverage from the point of view of controls, project design, implementation, discipline, and all kinds of things, transparency as the case may be. So that's the differentiating factor between our experience in the past and what we have now.
Okay, fantastic. It's been wonderful talking to you. I could listen to you all day. And I guess that we have not scratched enough of what the PPP does, or rather the BPP does, and what the state is doing to create that ease of doing business for other investors. But it's been wonderful talking to you, Dr. Francis Ntamu.
Thank you.
Senior Special Advisor to His Excellency and DG Bureau of Public-Private Partnership. But as I let you go now, I would like you to, just look at the camera and tell that investor, that one investor, why it is important. I know that you have said a couple of times, that the government says that Cross River State is the premium destination for investment. So look at that one investor that would want to do business in Cross River State and tell him or her why it is necessary to do that.
Right. Thank you. Hi, my name is Francis Ntamu. I lead the Bureau of Public-Private Partnership team in Cross River. And it's a great delight to invite you to be part of the great experience we're having on the public-private partnership front in Cross River. We have an institutional framework that connects with our readiness, our willingness and ability to doing transparent business, to having win-win partnership collaboration, to supporting through the entire PPP hall from the entry level to the exit. And we guarantee you that you have what a great experience it will be to stop by in one of the safest subnationals in Africa, in one of the greenest and cleanest cities in Africa, the home of the Cross River Carnival, the annual Calabar Street Party experience, the home of good governance, the state where you have the governor of the year, the state, Cross River, where you have the Sun newspaper man of the year. So it will be a huge experience, massive land area, according to Philip Consulting Analysis. Cross River is the second in Nigeria in terms of its economic potentials. But we feel we were even better than the second because we have a huge landmass. We have friendly people. We have green respect for low carbon practices. It's the safest, as I've earlier highlighted, and it will be a massive experience where you have a PPP governance architecture that includes a PPP council, a PPP law, a PPP master plan that focuses on good and transparent procurement, where the administration is focused on leading best practices, as the case may be. It will be a great time to have you, please.
You could pass for a marketer. I like that. No, little wonder, His Excellency made you the Director General of BPP in Cross River State, because, of course, that was just a good way to sell Cross River. Thank you so much once again, Dr. Francis Ntamu. All right, that's the much we'll be able to take today. It's been wonderful. I could listen to Dr. talk over and over again. There's just so much that we need to harness in Cross River State when you talk about Bureau of Public-Private Partnership and ease of doing business. The environment is safe. It is really safe. And that's one of the things that, projects businesses in this part of the world. So please come down and do business with us. But on the other hand, I would like that when you come across this video, make sure that you get to subscribe to our channel, the African Diaspora channel, in collaboration with CRBC on YouTube. Do well to subscribe. do well to drop a comment. We want feedbacks, okay? And do well to join in on the conversation. It's been wonderful. And at this moment, we say thank you so much. And we'll see you again when I get to see you again. My name is Janice Koppel.